Guys, it's Rey Watkins Journal. Welcome to my channel. Today we are at the Rubel Castle here in Glendora, California. To get in, you need to pay $20 and complete the liability waiver like this one. Let's go in, guys, and let's do the walking tour. The walking tour, guys.
We're inside about approximately 2 acres. That is what's left of the Alborn Rancho, which was many acres of citrus groves around here, and all the citrus. But you can walk straight through and out the back. And you'll see we installed a bathtub in there and everything to make it into a proper guest room. No, the restroom was already on the canoes. Yeah.
How you doing? Great, how are you? Nice to see you.
Good, nice to see you. You too?
Yes.
Hi.
Became their charter. What do we call their charter?
Yeah, we just became, I guess we're their sponsor.
We are their charter organization or
Yeah.
something?
They've been doing different jobs here over the last 10 years anyway. Huh?
Michael.
Yeah. These are just memorials. And I show people this by way of saying, showing how the castle started. It was all done with and this is one of them. Monument company started donating scraps of granite to us so we could stick it in our walls as we were building. And one day they came with a dump truck and some of these stones fell out, and my uncle panicked and called and said, you have real gravestones in your rock supply, and they said, oh, those are typographical errors. So you can stick them in your walls. So we started the graveyard with some of those. And then we had these little slabs that were shiny enough, we learned how to sandblast our own. So most of it, a nice picket fence around, but the peacocks ruined that.
Oh.
You can follow me down this way. The farms around here, back in the 60s and 70s, all the remaining farms around this area were coming down, and we were going out and tearing places down to get the wood and build so we could build stuff. Everything we had was free, and including a whole bunch of tanks like this. This one became our swimming pool, and you can see these pillars here used to hold up a pretty glorious deck, a beautiful thick wooden deck that.
Yeah.
Come inside here. This was Michael's, one of my uncle's prized cars. He got this when he was a teenager still.
Oh.
From an auction. This was a government-owned Mercedes, and it's bulletproof. And it was used as a parade car. He said, see that tree coming up? Throw your door open. Things like that. So she learned how to joyride too.
Their garage.
This is, all these tin buildings here are the older area of the castle. These are the original part of the citrus packing house infrastructure. This building here above the cars is called the box factory because it's where they used to manufacture the orange crates and label them. I'm not sure why it was built to be elevated, but there's a trap door up there with a ladder, and then there's a spiral staircase on the end of it. And this is the first house that my uncle rented out in 1959 when he moved in. Another Glendora kid helped him move, and they became friends. And when they were done moving, the kid said, well, come in here and see this old Grove tractor. We're proud of keeping this running. This was running when I was a kid, and then kind of got stored away for a while. And last year we were able to, or 2 years ago, we were able to put this back in the Glendora parade, and it runs again. This is an example of like a homemade vehicle. Like back in the old days, blacksmiths would just make these. They'd buy a motor from Detroit or Wisconsin. And the gas station is original to the Alborn Ranch from the 1930s. Even in the 1920s, it was a ranch before Mr. Bourne bought it. So these two old pumps are original, and then the other pumps were added by Michael. In the 70s, when oil prices started going up, when it got to about 70 cents, everyone was panicking, but all of us who worked here, Michael would give us gas as payment. He'd buy it so cheap and fill up the tanks, and then he'd fill up our cars. Here, if you look in there, you can go up and look if you want. Those two big flywheels are on what's called a Western pump engine, and these are the types of pump engines that pull water out of the springs of the mountains. So this was a pump engine from the city of Glendora. Michael knew where everything was in the mountains. By the time he was in adult, he had been for moving to Azusa. He knew where all the gold mines were. He used to camp out in the mines. And next year we got an even bigger machine. Oh, this is open too. We started storing, this is one of the biggest work trucks that we use. This is a 1-ton Chevy flatbed, 1930. And this probably hauled the most rocks out of all the trucks. And it's the truck I learned to drive in when I was about 10. So they used to, all the kids got put in a truck and put in the grove so we could learn how to drive. So these machines these are all from about the 1890s. And they used to pump either into water wagons or into the plumbing system.
Oh, wow.
Big machine to pump water to a wood bath.
Yeah. But it's so hot for them to drink though.
Yeah.
It's boiling. Pretty cool.
my grandmother started, this is what happens when a family doesn't throw anything away. And my grandmother started putting all her old furniture in here, and in 1961 she started living here. She gave my father her house because he was going to college, so she decided to live here. And then for a while it was a 4-generation family. I was here, my great-grandfather, my grandmother, and my uncle were all living in this room. And this picture here is father and grandmother. And my grandfather Heinz died when Michael was only 6 years old, so that kind of formed his childhood. His father became all the ranchers around here. It does take a village to raise a kid. The Historical Society used some of my grandmother's old china to show what her parties used to look like. If she had a dinner party, it would go, she sometimes had a table all the way from here to the south end of the room, with a few hundred people in here. And there'd be a band at the other end and dancing, and she was on Broadway. This is her at the Winter Garden in Philadelphia, she was working with Jack Benny, and these are later pictures of my grandmother. This is 1976 when she was in the bicentennial parade in Glendora, and she still loved getting up in her costumes, even in their 70s. She had a giant hat collection, hundreds of hats. She had a room this size that was packed full of costumes. She just collected costumes. And on Drive, that was after the 1969 flood, which ruined the first 20 feet of this property. There used to be another room on the north end, which was the original kitchen and paymaster station for the citrus workers. And when National Geographic, while we were fighting the flood, we had sandbags, and we were running our own tractors trying to push the mud away. And the city was doing something nefarious, but no one ever admitted it. But in the afternoons on hot days, we could still run the refrigeration back then. So these rooms were very cold, and when it got to 100 degrees and we were mixing concrete, we'd all come in here, there could be 5 people or 20 people, and my uncle would close the door and shell us all down and serve wine and tell stories. And you'll see the stuff on the wall on the north side here, right there, that the bayonets and sabers and stuff like that, some of that came from Ponchavia's army. It was all given to Michael when he was 15 years old by Otto Stadi. So we got some arms and some army. And my uncle was so pleased that all these old timers were still alive. These are the people.
Very small room.
So they really wanted to see the completion of the castle, and they would share this party with this class. His army is in here, and this area here, this shows a performance of Sally Rand. And if anybody of you have, as we get older, less people have heard of her. She was a silent film star. She was my grandmother's best friend. So this is what she did in the 20s and 30s. She actually made her fan dance famous. She didn't do well in silent films. Well, she did well until the early 60s, and a friend of ours bought it who plays piano and organ for silent films still. And that's still something we want to do here. Out here, we're kind of going, so come on in here and you'll see what we did with this room. This was a big empty room. It's called the Lemon House, and for some reason, this is where they dealt with the lemons, and that's the restroom in case anybody needs that out there, that outhouse. So this room was empty, and there were where you see the glass now, there were no walls. It was just a big open room. So Michael put all the glass in, and all the stuff up in the rafters here came from Florence Peck up at Follows Camp in Azusa, which used to be a stagecoach stop. So all this stuff is from the late 1800s. Even the skis all came from there. So we built that fireplace, and and put everything in here. There's a player piano in the corner over here. All the rolls, all the music for the player piano are in the library card files, which is a pretty neat system. You can look up the song you want. And this was the big round table for everybody. And Michael would cook for everyone in the morning before starting the cement mixer. And we'd all get as much as we could possibly eat. Steak and oatmeal and eggs and and so this, you can see when we built this, Michael had no resources. That's why these things are made out of wood. You know, everything got destroyed on the north end, so all this plumbing is built out of just bits of pipe that were flying around. Area. When we're in there, we'll be standing in the bottom of what used to be the reservoir. The reservoir held millions of gallons of water to irrigate all the orange groves around here. And in the early 60s, my uncle was trying to figure out how to make money on farming, and he figured he'd be a gentry farmer too. So we turned the reservoir into a hothouse, and the whole thing, we built the structure and covered the whole thing in visqueen and tried to raise beautiful eggplants and cucumbers and things like that. And if you're worried you're too tall, just duck all the way through this tunnel. Everybody catching up? I'm going to take you through, this is what we call the center structure, or the machine shop. This building was built, when you go inside, you'll see it was made out of, originally made out of giant timbers that go all the way to the top. They came from an old railroad bridge. Thought it was like.
Yeah.
And this is where a lot of the social activity among the workers happened too. If we had an average day of building the castle was just a couple of us, sometimes just me and my uncle, and sometimes 4 or 5 of us mixing concrete and building. But when we had a big thing to do, like moving big timbers, we have a party and get a lot of people here to lift things. And this is where some of the parties happen. This is the fire pit. This is an old forge, or foundry for melting metal. So this is the fire pit. That's the soup pot up there that we could lower down over the fire pit. And we even have a barbecue over here. It's hinged there, so it swings out to the middle of the room. So this was a great place to make soup. So this area here, up on the south side here, those sliding glass doors, that's where Michael used to live. As soon as he had we call that the King's Port, because that's his bedroom and living room up on the second and third story there. We have 100-year-old machines in here. So this is an example of, probably a lot of you have seen it before, letterpress printing. This is a 1911 letterpress, and that's about the same age too. This press was donated to us by a retired printer, a pressman, and Michael took it and got it working because he's a good mechanic, but he wasn't a printer. He didn't know how to use it. He just got it working, and then it sat here for years with nobody knowing how to use it, until I got a girlfriend in 1984 who had taken this in college, so she was able to teach us. So she and I did a lot of work in here during the 80s, And the last thing I did in here was about a year.
Wood?
Yeah, skateboards. They're old skateboards. Yes,
Since he was a kid, for some reason, he had a dream of having a weight-driven clock. And it just became an obsession of his. And almost the whole castle was built because he wanted a clock. Water tanks, and we laid them out across the bottom of the reservoir before this tower was here, and bolted them all together. So it was a horizontal tower. And then we raised it by putting cranes up in the tops of the palm trees. We put winches and put the cables down to the tower to raise it up. You know, and it was so heavy the palm. So on a normal day, you'd see this pin ring up at the top. These cables go up and down. These cables operate hammers at the top of the tower that bang on the bells. And Michael was clever enough to not disturb the neighbors when we first activated it once every 3 days in order to keep it going, but something broke, so we had to stop it this morning. I'll come out here. And it's 30 feet away, and suddenly, boom! These cars stopped there, and we were all blinded by the flash. I'm sure they really were. And stopped there for like 30 seconds, like really slowly. And we never heard from them again. And when Michael was building this, so this tunnel here we built in 1967. Before then, you had to get into the reservoir with a step ladder down the side. So in '67, in preparation for bringing building materials in here, we dug this tunnel into it, using a lot of digging and a little bit of dynamite. So this tower here, when you look up, the platform at the top is holding a 3,000-gallon water tank for fire emergencies and stuff. And then this is also the supply shaft for the castle, so all the firewood and groceries would go up on a winch from down here and then be distributed throughout the castle. So there's a 3-gate system to keep the attackers out. There's this inner gate here, and then this is a gate that goes up and down, just made from scrap metal, and then the portcullis all the way out there, which also goes up and down. And then, so this is the original wall of the reservoir right here. Well, anyway, you can take some more pictures and look around.
Ready?
That way?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Down there, and they push the door open. That's it for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you like my video, please don't forget to give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and click the notification bell so you will be updated every time I post new video. Thank you so much, guys. See you in my next vlog.